The story begins outside the courtroom, where a man named Fuck Chi-ho is present as a witness. He swears that his testimony is the truth and nothing but the truth. The film then flashes back to the day of the operation. A group of police officers carries out a raid to arrest a gang involved in smuggling weapons and drugs. However, they fall into the smugglers' trap and call for backup. Fuck Chi-ho, a member of the Special Forces, and his team are sent to assist. Upon entering the smugglers' territory, they are forced to engage in a gunfight to rescue the trapped officers. Resulting in the deaths of several smugglers. Despite their efforts, the gang leader escapes, and one of the officers pursues him. Seeing the chase, Fuck Chi-ho follows as well. As he approaches, he witnesses a struggle between the gang leader and the officer, during which the gang leader pushes the officer off balance. Fuck Chi-ho rushes to intervene, successfully saving the officer, but sustaining an injury himself. Eventually, the smuggling gang's leader is apprehended. At his trial, the gang leader's lawyer argues that his client is innocent and that the police have wrongly accused him. The defense claims that the arresting officer was not carrying her ID at the time, meaning the defendant had no way of knowing they were law enforcement, which explains his attempt to flee. When questioned by the prosecutor about his presence at the scene, the defendant states that he was simply there to take photographs. He further argues that no fingerprints of his were found on any of the weapons, and there is no concrete evidence linking him to any crime. The prosecutor requests a new witness, but the judge denies the request. Then the judge orders that the accused Chong-min Bing be acquitted of all charges and be released as soon as possible. Upon hearing the verdict, Fuck Chi-ho silently leaves the courtroom. Sometime later, upon returning to his office, he reflects, saying to himself, "Law enforcement is only the beginning of the legal process. When small cracks appear, justice slips through them." And he leaves his office. His colleagues gather to see him off, paying their respects and wishing him success in his new role as a prosecutor. After completing a 7-year apprenticeship, Fuck Chi-ho officially joins the Ministry of Justice as a rookie prosecutor. At that moment, a new case emerges, one in which the accused has confessed to murder, but there is insufficient evidence to support the charges. The prosecutor asks Fuck Chi-ho, given his background as a former detective, to share his opinion on the case. Fuck Chi-ho argues that a woman with low physical strength could not have killed a strong man using only a fruit knife. He further suggests the possible involvement of a third party. The prosecutor challenges his theory, proposing a bet on who is right. Fuck Chi-ho, confident in his deduction, jokingly promises to buy everyone a round of beer if he loses. Shortly after, the prosecutor assigns Fuck Chi-ho his first official case. According to the case details, a man named Makakit receives a package from Brazil. The police track the package to his residence, and as soon as he takes delivery, they raid his house. Upon seeing the officers, Makakit attempts to flee, but he is swiftly apprehended. When they search the package, they find drugs inside. However, Makakit insists that the package is not his, and claims that he allowed someone named Chan Kwok-wing to use his name and address. The police search Chan Kwok-wing's house and find drugs. The prosecutor later reveals that after 3 months in prison, Makakit changed his statement, now denying that he had ever given permission for his name and address to be used. Fuck Chi-ho notes the contradiction in Makakit's testimony and points out that he has no prior criminal record. In contrast, Chan Kwok-wing has a history of arrests, and drugs were previously discovered at his residence. Fuck Chi-ho argues that Chan Kwok-wing is likely the true culprit. The prosecutor then informs Fuck Chi-ho that in order to proceed with the case, he must obtain approval from the Attorney General and ensure that all legal protocols are followed. Meanwhile, a law firm takes over Makakit's legal representation and pressures him to plead guilty. They assure him that if he confesses, he will be released from prison soon. However, Makakit refuses, maintaining that he had merely allowed the use of his name and address in exchange for money. The law firm, in turn, tells him that there is no evidence proving his innocence and insists that his only chance at freedom is to admit guilt. Makakit and his grandfather, under immense pressure, agree to a plea deal, hoping for a reduced sentence through appeal. Makakit confesses to all charges and signs a statement. His case moves to court and his lawyer approaches prosecutor Fuck Chiho, suggesting they present Makakit as the main defendant. But Fuck Chiho, a man of integrity, refuses to comply. Makakit's lawyer argues that Makakit has already pleaded guilty and there is no hard evidence to prove his innocence. Fuck Chiho, pointing out that Makakit has no criminal record, while Chan Kwok-wing does, making him the more likely culprit. Just then, the chief prosecutor steps in, overriding Fuck Chiho's objections. Why waste the court's time? He says the accused has confessed. Furious, Fuck Chiho challenges this, asking, "Isn't our job to uncover the truth?" But the Attorney General shuts him down. The case is about drug trafficking through the mail. That's your concern, leave the rest alone. The trial proceeds, and with no objections from the prosecution, Makakit is convicted as the primary defendant. His case is forwarded to the Supreme Court. But Fuck Chiho isn't convinced something about Makakit's confession doesn't sit right. He turns to an old police colleague to dig deeper into Makakit's past. Through their investigation, they uncover Makakit's tragic history. His father died of a drug overdose, and his mother, a longtime addict, abused him severely. His grandfather eventually took him in, hoping to give him a better life. While discussing the case, Fuck Chiho's colleague spots a known criminal. A chase ensues, leading to a violent confrontation. Fuck Chiho, using his car as a weapon, joins the fight, and soon realizes they're up against dangerous drug smugglers. Just as things take a deadly turn, the special police unit arrives, arresting the criminals before they can strike. Meanwhile, in prison, Makakit suffers brutal abuse and lives in constant fear. His grandfather visits him, offering words of comfort, promising his release will come soon. But Makakit isn't buying it. "Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself," he tells his grandfather. "Who knows how long I'll be in here." His fears grow deeper when he recalls another prisoner who got 8 years for just 200 grams of drugs. "I had a kilo on me. How long do you think I'll get? Will you even be alive when I get out?" Desperate, Makakit's grandfather confronts the law firm, demanding they fix their mistake. But the firm's representative coldly reminds him, "No one forced your grandson to confess. He signed willingly. If you stay quiet, he'll be out in 10 years. Heartbroken, the old man cries, "I won't be alive in 10 years. Before being thrown out of the office. Determined to fight back, Makakit and his grandfather hire a new lawyer. Their attorney argues in court that Makakit was deceived into a false confession. The judge turns to prosecutor Fuck Chiho. Does he support reopening the case? Without hesitation, he agrees. The Attorney General is furious. "Why would you do this? Do you want to embarrass the prosecution?" Fuck Chiho stands firm. "Our job is to punish the guilty and free the innocent." The Attorney General orders the law firm's lawyers to testify. On the day of the trial, Makakit's former lawyer, Ms. Lee Sherman, takes the stand. She claims that Makakit confessed willingly, believing it would reduce his sentence and that he knew exactly what he was doing. During the trial, Makakit's lawyer questions Lee Sherman directly. "Did you force him to confess?" Lee Sherman responds confidently. He was fully aware of the crime he committed and confessed voluntarily to reduce his sentence. No one made him do it. Makakit's grandfather, enraged by her words, erupts in court. "Didn't you say that if he confessed, he'd be released sooner?" he shouts. Cursing at Lee Sherman, his outburst disrupts the proceedings, prompting the judge to order his removal from the courtroom. Meanwhile, the law firm forges documents to further implicate Makakit and submits them to the court, but Fuck Chiho, refusing to back down, fights relentlessly to prove his innocence. The judge, frustrated by Fuck Chiho's persistence, warns him, "Your actions are harming the prosecution." Fuck Chiho stands firm. "I'm seeking justice, not convenience." Despite his efforts, the trial ends with the jury finding Makakit guilty. The judge sentences him to 27 years in prison as the primary defendant in the drug trade, also citing his waste of the court's time. Fuck Chiho is devastated by the verdict and later visits Makakit in prison, offering his help. But Makakit, hopeless and broken, refuses. "There's no way back," he says, undeterred. Fuck Chiho reaches out to Makakit's grandfather, but the old man, bitter and distrustful, pushes him away. "You're all the same," he says. "You want to deceive me again and use me." Then, an assassination attempt shakes everything. Someone tries to run over Makakit's grandfather with a car. Fuck Chiho arrives just in time, saving him from certain death, concerned for his safety. Fuck Chiho escorts the grandfather to his home, Seeing the family's dire living conditions, he feels a renewed sense of determination. "How did you find this law firm?" he asks. The grandfather sighs. "The owner of the restaurant where Makakit worked introduced us. We had no money, they offered free legal services, so we had no choice but to accept." Fook Chiho hands him some money and leaves, but he doesn't stop there. He assembles an investigation team, enlisting both old and new colleagues, their target. Makakit's employer, Fook Chiho, soon uncovers a shocking truth. The employer is working directly with the law firm. Together they manipulate the legal system, ensuring that real criminals walk free while innocent people like Makakit take the fall. As Fook Chiho's colleague infiltrates the restaurant to gather evidence, the criminals catch him filming. They move to eliminate him, but Fook Chiho rushes in just in time. A brutal fight ensues in the chaos. Fook Chiho suffers a head injury and collapses unconscious. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest everyone. As the investigation intensifies, Fook Chiho's colleague reports a crucial discovery to the Attorney General. The so-called second-degree defendant, the man for whom Makakit was punished, is actually the half-brother of the restaurant owner. He and the head of the law firm are key players in a massive drug trafficking ring. The Attorney General orders their immediate arrest and interrogation. The case now threatens to shake the very foundation of the judiciary. The Minister of Justice pressures the Attorney General to resolve the situation quickly, fearing a public scandal. But Fook Chiho and his team uncover an even deeper connection. The prosecution had previously gone after A.O. Pac-Man, the head of the corrupt legal institute, several times. Yet he always walked free. The person in charge of those cases? None other than the Attorney General himself. Suspicion falls heavily on him. Fook Chiho and Makakit's grandfather meet at a small restaurant. Discussing the case over dinner, Fook Chiho steps away for a moment. When he returns, he is met with horror. The grandfather has been murdered. The media explodes with the story. The pressure becomes too much to ignore, and the Makakit case is officially reopened. The police work tirelessly, but despite their efforts, they fail to find concrete evidence proving Makakit's innocence. Just when hope seems lost, the entire prosecution team joins forces, reviewing old files to find witnesses. But fear keeps them silent. No one dares to testify. Sensing the rising tension, the Attorney General makes a desperate move. He visits Fook Chiho's home and urges him to back off. "Drop this case," he warns, but Fook Chiho refuses. "A man was murdered. How can I stop now?" The Attorney General remains firm. Murder investigations are the police's responsibility, not the prosecutor's office. If you're so eager to play detective again, and maybe you should rejoin the force. The Attorney General smirks. "Continue your investigation if you must, but in a month you'll receive your transfer papers." Realizing he needs leverage, Fook Chiho takes a bold risk. He lies, claiming to have evidence that the Attorney General is collaborating with the smugglers. Furious, the Attorney General snaps. "You dare try to tarnish my name?" A tense confrontation follows, and in a moment of bravado, the Attorney General challenges him. "If you can defeat me, I will cooperate." Fook Chiho doesn't back down. A heated fight ensues, and Fook Chiho emerges victorious. Defeated and out of options, the Attorney General is forced to comply. Meanwhile, the smuggling syndicate grows desperate to eliminate any loose ends. They murder Chan Kwok-wing's brother, the second accused, hoping to throw the police off their trail. Terrified for his own life, Chan Kwok-wing reaches out to Fook Chiho, begging for protection. Seizing the opportunity, Fook Chiho urges him to testify for Makakit's innocence, promising police protection in return if he's willing to expose the entire smuggling network. Fook Chiho assures him that they will help him file a plea deal for leniency. Chan Kwok-wing reveals that his brother had hidden incriminating evidence that could bring down the entire syndicate. But before they can get to court, a deadly ambush is set in motion. A truck crashes into their car with the intention of killing them. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse, the trial is already underway. The smugglers, realizing their downfall is imminent, instruct the head of the law firm to disrupt the proceedings. In exchange, they promise him anything he desires. The gang leader sends his men to intercept the witness before he can testify. As the judge and the Attorney General await his arrival, Fook Chiho attempts to escort the witness to court via subway, but the criminals strike. A vicious brawl erupts inside the train. Fook Chiho fights them off one by one, but the smugglers have one last trump card. A highly skilled assassin takes control of the train, attempting to kill them both. Fook Chiho engages in a final brutal showdown, managing to take down the assassin just in time. Bloodied but determined, he drags the witness to the courthouse. Inside the courtroom, the witness finally takes the stand. He exposes the truth, providing undeniable evidence of Makakit's innocence and implicating the smuggling ring. The court, left with no choice, declares Makakit not guilty and orders his immediate release. But justice doesn't stop there. The documents reveal the full extent of the criminal operation. Arrest warrants are issued for all members of the smuggling gang and their corrupt legal allies. The authorities move swiftly, rounding them up one by one. With the criminals in custody, the court delivers its final judgment. The gang members and their conspirators receive life sentences. In the aftermath, the judicial system undergoes a major reform, implementing new procedures to prevent similar cases of corruption and wrongful convictions. Some past cases are even reopened, ensuring that the true culprits are finally brought to justice. Fook Chiho's journey, from police officer to prosecutor, illustrates the complexities of justice. His relentless pursuit of truth dismantles a corrupt network and restores faith in the legal system. The story serves as a powerful reminder that justice is not about blindly following procedures, but about uncovering the truth, ensuring that the innocent are protected, and holding the guilty accountable. In the end, Fook Chiho proves that justice must be fought for, even when the system resists change.